Hello, this is a formal apology for not posting yesterday, as I still felt ill the day before, so I could not record the video. But I am here now, and make sure to stay till the end. I have a few announcements to make. Without a further ado, this is Kurapika ex-listener, my imperfect princess. Chapter 3. I woke up to the dark sky as I looked to see my phone. 6:30 it wrote, before I stood up and went inside my room from my balcony. Heading in the restroom, I got ready, drawing a warm bath before picking out some clothes for the day. After I took my bath, I changed into an A-line sundress with a white belt and a gold engraving, a pair of white gloves, and to finish it all off, a shawl to cover my shoulders. As I exited the restroom, I heard a knock on my door before someone came in. "Lady YN, breakfast is ready," I heard, looking to see Kurapika, before nodding, feeling a warm feeling in my chest. Walking to the door, "My lady, may I know where your bags are?" he asked, as I was only a few steps away from him. "They're in the closet, thank you," I said, walking out of the room to the dining hall. I walked into the dining hall to see no one there, as I sat down and started to eat the fluffy French toast, waiting for father and Neon. "My lady, your father and sister will not be joining you for breakfast," the head guard announced as I enjoyed my food, nodding, finishing the plate quickly before leaving the room to my sleeping quarters to pack a small luggage with things I will need for the flight. When I finished packing, there was a knock at the door. "Come," I said, but stopped midway, coughing nonstop, as my body dropped to its knees, using the bed to support my upper body up while trying to catch my breath. The door flew open to reveal Mr. Dowsley running over to me as I coughed continuously. My coughing soon came to a slow stop, but he told me to remain seated and rest for a while. I nodded my head as I got up to sit on my bed as he spoke. "We are leaving now, my lady. Your father will be riding with Neon, and you will be riding with your guard, Melody." I looked at him before asking, "Can you please bring me there?" I said, praying he'd agreed, and he did, as he helped me up and took my luggage before we made our way out to the car. After the car ride, we arrived at the airport. We were off to our flight to York New City. I was seated with the guards, as my father didn't want me to be near him or Neon. I sat at the front, waiting for liftoff, as I read a new book, titled "The Dark Within the Light." When I heard a person ask, "May I sit next to you?" I looked up to see them and nodded, before continuing to read my book. As they sat down, the plane soon lifted off, as some of the guards started talking, some played cards, and some just slept. Changing to Kurapika's POV. I was reading a book on Nen when I noticed Lady YN was a bit pale and looked tired, but didn't bring it up when I heard a few of my colleagues behind me talking. Wow, Lady Wyon's voice when she sang last night, it felt like an angel. Yeah, I know, but she doesn't smile much. Much is an understatement. I haven't seen her smile even once. My eavesdropping was cut off by something bumping into my shoulder. I looked to see Lady Wyan fast asleep, headphones on, listening to, if I assume correctly, some type of instrument. I looked at her phone. Oh, classical music. Specifically, Beethoven. She also had a blanket covering her legs. As a strand of her hair fell in front of her face, I watched as heat rose to my cheeks before regaining composure and listening to the conversation. Hey Kat, can you tell us how she was like when you started? Sure, but no guarantee it's pretty, he said, looking to the girl beside me, fast asleep, and nodding to himself. Okay, listen closely, I'm not repeating. Apparently, Mr. Dowsing started working for the Nostrat 13 years ago, when he just qualified his hunter exams and learned how to use Nen. The day he arrived, he was faced with the sight of an ill girl forced to study by her tutor, and looked as if she was about to collapse any moment. Sadly, she did collapse, before he was told to bring her back to her room. But on his way to her room, he was met with the sight of Mr. Nostrat playing with Neon happily, taking care of her, making him question. So, that night, he went to the security room to check all past footages of the family and found out the reason behind the unfairness is because of her mother's death. After giving birth to Neon, she was abused and told not to do countless things. She grew up to be a prim and proper lady. But a few years ago, when she still smiled, Neon found out about her Nen. And it made her even less wanted, as her father only made it worse by sending her to a lady finishing school for 2 years. The fact that the students also constantly bullied her for all and anything she did didn't help. But according to his knowledge, he saw her use Nen more than once to heal insects, birds, or even some little creatures. When she used her Nen, he said that she glowed as if an angel, the outlining of a pair of wings, and as quickly as it appeared, it disappeared into thin air, as the animals always started running freely yet again. And unbeknownst to everyone else, Lady Wyan rarely returns home from her university, and sometimes studies there for weeks on end. She was also told to be a very smart young lady, as she skipped multiple grades and entered university when she was merely at the age of 13, and just graduated a few months ago. As he finished, I felt something warm on my shoulder. I looked to see Lady Wyan breathing deeply as her temperature rose. Sir, Lady Wyan has a fever, I said before he dug through his bags, pulling out a liquid fever medicine, walking to us before pouring it out Mr. Dowsing lifted up her head gently, her mouth slightly agape, before pouring the medicine in, not waking her up whatsoever. Sitting her head back down to rest on my shoulders, he said, "Let her rest. I know something was off since this morning." He hummed the last part. "But, sir, if you knew something was off, why didn't you tell Mr. Nostra this morning?" I asked, as everyone looked at us listening, also curious and eager to know. He sighed before starting. "It's because regardless, Mr. Nostra wouldn't care about the young lady, and till my notice, she also doesn't have any friends, and Neon only sees her as a nanny or maid." He shook his head and patted hers, as my eyes took on the redder color, scarlet to be more exact. But thanks to the contacts I wore, it was hidden. My fist was clenched into a ball beside me. How could he? She's so kind, I thought, but was cut off by the pilot's announcement. "We'll be arriving at York New City shortly. Please get ready to exit the plane." I helped close Lady Wyan's bag, packing up her things. As for the blanket she used, I let it stay. After we landed, I picked her up bridal style as Melody carried her things. We walked out and was going to the cars with Neon and Mr. Nostra when he looked at me, then down at Lady Wyan, before he pulled a small amount of her hair, waking her up, and ordering, "Walk on your own. You're being a burden and a nuisance to Kurapika, and you're drawing attention, brat," he said, growling slightly, as she patted my shoulder to let her down. And I did so, but as her feet touched the ground, I could tell she was too weak, but still let go. She curtsied at her father and said, "Sorry for the inconvenience, father." But suddenly, as she finished, we all heard a loud slap and looked over to see Lady Wyan on the floor with a red mark on her cheek. "Get up," Mr. Nostra ordered as she got up. Melody handed her her walking stick as we all made our ways to the cars that were prepared for us. I sat in a car with Neon as Mr. Nostra was on another flight to his destination. Time skip at the hotel. As we walked in, I went to retrieve the room cards before walking back to the others when I noticed Lady Wyan holding on to her walking stick a little too tight, and her face was even paler than before, when suddenly she disappeared from my line of sight as I dropped the room cards and ran over, catching her in the nick of time. And thankfully, I made it. Her breathing was heavier than before, and her fever became worse as I called out, "Sir!" He looked over and quickly gave orders as everyone carried them out, before walking over and placing a hand on her forehead. "She's burning up. Bring her to the room and let her rest," he said. I nodded at his commands before I got up with Lady Wyan in my arms, seeing Melody as we walked to the lift, Neon and a few more guards following. We all arrived at the room before I placed her in one of the rooms to rest. Walking to the restroom, I took a bucket of water and a small towel, wetting it before placing it on her forehead. "Thank you, Kurapika," I heard, looking to see Lady Wyan holding my shirt. "No need to thank me, my lady. I meant to help you. It's my job, so don't worry. Just rest," I said, picking up her hand that was holding onto my shirt, cupping it, before placing it onto her stomach. As I left the room, taking one last glance at her as we were called for a meeting. I hope you liked the video, and my announcements are: my Imperfect Princess will end at chapter 9, and I will be working on a new Promise of Neverland story, Ray X Listener. I'm still thinking of a title name, and it will be a longer story as it will be following the manga and not that quick moving. I hope you enjoy the rest of this. One second. Okay, retake. I hope you enjoyed the rest of this series, My Imperfect Princess, and please do not mind all my problems. I still feel like a slug after the whole vaccine thing, so please don't mind how I've been talking this video. I still feel very sluggish. Sorry it is one day late, but I hope you guys can forgive me. There is a playlist linked down below for this series,